You ever feel like your company's strategy just has a serious case of whiplash? You know, one quarter you're all charging in one direction, and the next you're pivoting so hard it feels like you're back at square one. It's this super common frustration that leaves teams feeling just completely confused and burnt out. Well, today we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to build a strategy that gives you a clear, steady direction. It's time to trade that whiplash for a real, solid roadmap. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to put a name to this whole mess, the yo-yo strategy problem. Then we'll look at the two big culprits that pull companies off course, something called drifting versus chasing. After that, we'll get to the good stuff, defining your North Star. I'll lay out a really practical 8-step plan to get you there. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking about how to make sure your strategy is a living, breathing thing, not something that just collects dust. All right, let's dive right into the heart of it, the yo-yo strategy problem. You know exactly what this feels like, right? It's that constant sense of being pulled back and forth by priorities that seem to change with the wind. It's totally reactive, it's disorienting, and honestly, it makes it almost impossible to build any real, lasting momentum. So let me just ask you this, point blank. Be honest. Does your company's strategy change every 6 months? If you're nodding along right now, trust me, you are not alone. This constant churn is usually a symptom of something much deeper. It's a sign that short-term tactics are pretending to be long-term strategy. And what happens? Your team never, ever gets a chance to see if a plan actually works before it's thrown out for the next new thing. So this whole yo-yo effect, it's usually caused by two big opposing forces that are pulling your company in totally different directions. On one hand, you've got what's called strategic drift. That's when you're just clinging to what's familiar and comfortable, even when the world has clearly moved on. And on the other hand, you've got shiny object syndrome, that irresistible urge to chase after every new, trendy idea that pops up. So you're basically caught in this tug-of-war between being stuck in the past and being completely distracted by the future. So let's actually dig a little deeper into these two forces, because understanding the difference between drifting and chasing, well, that's the absolute first step to finding the right balance and, actually staying on course. This quote from Johnson and his colleagues just nails the sneaky nature of strategic drift. Notice the key words here: gradual failure. This isn't some big, sudden crisis. No, it's your strategy slowly, almost silently becoming misaligned with the market. I love this analogy. Think of it like a ship that's just one single degree off course. For the first few miles, you don't even notice. But over a long, long journey, you end up in a totally different continent than where you were aiming. And believe it or not, there's actually a scientific reason we get stuck like this. Research into something called impaired set shifting shows that our brains are literally wired to resist change, especially after we've poured a ton of effort into a plan. The more work we put in up front, the harder it is for our brains to let go and switch gears. So that initial effort, ironically, makes us cling even tighter, even when the market is screaming at us to change. It's a classic case of cognitive inertia, and it's pretty much the engine that drives strategic drift. Okay, and then you have the complete polar opposite, shiny object syndrome. We've all seen this one in action, right? It's that constant distraction of the next big thing. It's totally driven by a fear of missing out, or FOMO, and it causes companies to just abandon perfectly good, solid plans for some new, unproven, trendy idea. And the result? You completely lose focus on your core mission. Okay, so if we're not drifting and we're not chasing, what are we supposed to do? Well, we start navigating. And to do that, you need a North Star. This is all about building a real, durable, long-term strategy that's going to guide you through everything. So let's just define our terms. At its core, a long-term strategy is simply a comprehensive plan that lays out your goals for the future. But the crucial part here is the timeline. We're talking at least a year and usually much more than that. This isn't about hitting your quarterly numbers. This is about setting that big, clear, overarching objective that all those smaller goals are meant to serve. And here's what that actually looks like in practice. See, we're not talking about fuzzy, vague ambitions here. We're talking about concrete, measurable goals. Things like lowering production costs by exactly 5%, or opening 2 more locations within 3 years, or boosting company income by 15%. Each one of these is a super clear benchmark for success that you can track over time. So why does this matter so much? Why is it worth the effort? Well, because a solid long-term strategy is literally the engine for sustainable success. For one, it's a huge driver of business growth. It also gives you a framework for managing risk, right? Because you actually have time to track what's working and make smart adjustments. And finally, it leads to stable, predictable budgeting. That means you can actually fund new ideas without throwing your finances into chaos every other quarter. All right, so we've defined the problem and we've set the goal. Now it's time for the really practical part, your roadmap. Let's walk through an 8-step action plan that's designed to help you build a strategy that actually sticks. Okay, these first 4 steps are all about laying a rock-solid foundation. Step 1, identify your goals. You've got to analyze your business and set goals that are realistic and measurable. Step 2, create the strategies. This is where you outline the specific actions, the how, you're going to take to hit each goal. Step 3, develop a timeline. Make it realistic, but also flexible to keep everyone on track. And finally, step 4, and this one is absolutely critical, adjust your sales and marketing. You have to make sure those plans directly reflect your new strategic priorities. Now, the next 4 steps are all about execution and adaptation. Step 5 is communication, and this is huge. I'm not talking about just sending out an email blast. This is about creating real, shared ownership of the plan. Step 6 is to revise your plan. You've got to be humble enough to look for errors and refine it. Then, step 7 is implementation. This is where the rubber meets the road and you put it all into action. And finally, step 8, assess the results. This is what closes the loop and sets you up to continuously improve. And that brings us to our final and maybe most crucial point. Because here's the thing. Once your strategy is built, the work is not over, not even close. A great strategy is a living document. It has to breathe and evolve with your business. It is not a stone tablet you carve, hang on the wall, and then forget about. So you have to be constantly asking this one simple question. Your plan is in motion, right? The team is executing, the wheels are turning, but is it actually working? Are you getting the results you thought you would? Answering that honestly requires a real commitment to regular, no-nonsense assessment. And here's the thing, assessment isn't just about catching problems. It's also an incredibly powerful tool for motivation. Think about it. When you can actually show your team, hey, look at these tangible, positive results from all your hard work, well, that just fuels their energy and their commitment to the strategy like nothing else can. So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about for your own organization. Take a really hard, honest look at your current strategy. Is it a living, breathing roadmap that actually guides your decisions and helps you navigate change? Or has it become a relic, just an outdated artifact that's holding you back from where you really need to be? Because honestly, the answer to that question makes all the difference in the world.